Hello, my name is Grant Baxter, and I will be presenting on Round 2 results for Capsim Group Andrews 1. Next slide. Overall, in Round 2, Andrews performed very poorly, not even coming out positive, but also actually losing $1.6 million for the year. Our stock price dropped to around $11 a share, dropping $19 from previous rounds. Also, our bond rating dropped to a C, which was previously at a double C. Our leverage is at 3.1, which is above the recommended threshold of 2.8. Anything above the threshold of 2.8, Andrews is beginning to lose points and is also heavily leveraged with debt. Next slide. As you can see in this picture, it basically sums up the health of Andrews from an overall glance. Even though this is showing our stock price, it sums up our round very well. You can see right here that Andrews is the blue triangle that in 2017 was falling below the pack, and in 2018 drastically fell behind competition. Next slide. In this past round, Andrews was forced to take out almost a $19 million loan at an interest rate of around 13%. Now, what we want to do to figure out Andrews is why they're doing so poorly when you can see that in sales they have $147 million, which the next closest is Ferris at $131 million. So we're trying to figure out how we're making the most but losing the most as well. You can see our profits here were negative where everyone else is in the positive, and even our earnings before income and taxes is lower than everyone else but relative. Our contribution margin is around the same with everyone but lower, and our leverage is obviously the highest due to we were the only group that had to take out the emergency loan. It will be harder for us to raise money in the future due to higher interest rates. Issuing stock will not help raise significant funds at the current state of the company. As you can see in the chart, we currently have the highest revenue, which I expressed earlier. But why are we having the highest revenue? So because our company has been investing a lot into automation, this helps us have a major lead in price competition and contribution margin in the future, but right now it is hurting us. We also have not been properly forecasting, which is leaving a lot of inventory left on our shelf. Next slide. So what is Andrew's strategy? Andrew's strategy is a low-end, low-price products that focus in traditional and low-end segments. And what we want to do in those markets is we want high sales and high market share. Andrews is currently the leader of market share overall, which is at 18.7%, where the next closest is Digby at 18.43%. Even though we are the highest market share currently, we are not properly executing our strategy and feel that we should have higher market share than we already do. So first, since traditional is one of our main focuses, here I have an Excel spreadsheet pulled up. Our current market share is 12%, which our potential was 13% for the market. We're investing a lot in variable costs, which, as you can see, from round 1 to round 2 increased, also with labor costs. I chose to compare Baker so you could see, since they were leading, but they even dropped in round 2. So as you can see for Baker, in round 1, Baker had 19% market share, but in round 2 dropped to 11%. So why is that? Well, it's because Erie Group has now 28% of the traditional market because they are repositioning products and have two products in the traditional segment that are drastically taking over. I would not say that we are executing our strategy because, as you can see, in round one, we sold 933 units and had 748 left over, which hurt us because we are not properly forecasting. And then in round two, we sold actually less than we had inventory left over, which is drastically hurting us. We have 1,222 products left on the shelf that did not sell and is really taking away from our profits that we think we can get with proper forecasting in the future. A highlight here is that our contribution margin has been increasing, as well as Baker's, but ours increased slightly faster than Baker's did. Our fixed costs have increased due to our fixed costs have increased due to our current interest rate increases, as I stated with the leverage earlier. Variable costs are continuing to increase, which is hurting our profit as well. Depreciation is increasing because we are acquiring a lot more assets and are increasing the amount we spend on advertising to increase customer accessibility and awareness, which we need to do to gain market share. As you scroll down, you can see that we are trying to be the cheapest price, which we are, in both round 1 and 2, and we feel that our product is meeting the customer buying criteria. However, our competition is also meeting it. HR is something that was new to this round, and I feel really is going to put us ahead in about round 4 or 5. We are maxing out recruiting and training for our employees, and this will begin to lower variable costs in the future by lowering labor costs and having to pay less employees and hire less employees as well. Also, it shortens the learning curve so new employees are just as efficient as current employees. This will also up our automation, where our competition isn't investing heavily in this right now, and they're succeeding. In about round 4, we should be doing the exact opposite. So you can see some strengths here for the Able product is in round 1, our capacity for our plant was at 87%, which we increased to 93%, which is great. Also, our customer awareness went up to 100% in round 2, and our accessibility increased to 74%, which was previously at 67%. This is helping us stay ahead because we are the cheapest and we are the most known compared to our competitors. All we have to do is properly forecast and reposition products into the traditional market so we can help take over Erie and Baker's market share. Next slide. In low end, you can see in low end you can see that Acre is actually doing very well overall. We stocked out, and we have stocked out the past 2 rounds compared to our competitor Ebb, who has some left over. Our customer survey score also increased from 23 to 37. In total sales, we did $41 million. In round 2, we did $54 million, which is great. We're selling more product, we're stocking out, we're gaining more market share. We have around 25% of the market share, which our potential is 27, meaning if we didn't stock out and again went back to the forecasting, we could have sold even more. Our variable costs are increasing, which I stated that due to automation and investing in different things, we will be able to get that score back up. I feel that we are very well meeting the customer buying criteria for this product. You can see that we are still the lowest price and actually lowered our price from round 1 to round 2, which is helped giving us an edge against competitors who their price is slightly above ours. Everything else for the customer buying criteria meets it very well. Another highlight for the Acre product is our customer awareness went up to 98%, our accessibility increased to 61%, which is well above our competitors, and we feel that we can increase this even more in the future. Now, I would say with the Acre product, our company is very well executing our strategy. The only thing we could improve on would be forecasting and maybe have a little bit more inventory on hand so we're not stocking out and we can sell more product. Next slide. Overall, for our balanced scorecard results, I will pull it up here on the Excel spreadsheet so you can see it larger. Our stock price drastically decreased. We are still not generating a profit. In round 1, we generated about $380,000 in profit, which is well below our competitors who were in the low millions. In round 2, they were beginning to get double digits into the millions, while we are losing money, which is not good. Our leverage decreased because we went above that 2.8 threshold, which I stated would lower our points. Our contribution margin is increasing, and that's due to automation, employee training, and lowering our variable costs. We are still utilizing our plants very well and have that moved from round 1 in the 80s to round 2 up into the 90%. Our working capital went down because we did not have any cash on hand and we had to take out our emergency loan. Stocking out is still an issue for us, but we are doing all right in that. We're only stocking out in our low-end product, which is Acre, which in the rest we are not. Our customer buying criteria is improving, as well as our awareness and accessibility. It might not seem like much now, but in rounds to come, it will drastically increase. Everything else looks well. As you can see in employee productivity and turnover, we are investing a lot into that, which I stated earlier. Next slide. Our overall results and health of the company. Overall, in our company, we are not executing our strategy as well as we need to be. As you can see, we are making higher revenue but losing more money, which I stated earlier. Our interest expenses are going up. Our liabilities are increasing due to that emergency loan. Our assets, though, are still holding well. So, how can we prevent this from happening and turn a profit? I think through our automation process, as well as investing in the employees, it's going to help cut our costs drastically in the variable, and with proper forecasting, we should be able to increase our overall health of the company. Next slide. You can see at this graph that you gave us in class, which basically explains what we need to do to gain profit. As you can see here, the stock price is affected by the book value, leverage, and therefore interest rate. Our profit is affected by our total cost, which is affected by our fixed costs. So by lowering our fixed costs and variable costs, we will be able to generate a higher profit by having a higher earnings per share on our stock price, which we are currently at negative. We are losing 84 cents with each stock we have. Next slide. In conclusion, what we need to do to correct our past mistakes is to properly forecast so we can better execute our strategy, as well as create a company that's healthy. The future for Andrew's company is simply we are going to implement new products into both the low and traditional segments in the next round, have started doing some R&D in that in round 2, and we believe that since we very well meet the customer buying criteria, we do not have to spend as much money on R&D in the future as what we can do once our new product enters the traditional market. We can kind of use our existing product that's going to be at the far bottom right of the circle for traditional, and then our new product will be at the top left of the circle. So what will happen is we'll slowly let our front product drift back into traditional where we R&D the new product. So we're only R&Ding one product at a time, so they kind of flip-flop roles. Also, I believe that forecasting is what we need to do to keep our company afloat. And finally, the futures for Andrews. We need to not underestimate our competition, but keep a close eye on where they're positioning their products so we can take advantage when they slip up. Thank you. Goodbye.